I give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakak Wadash. Double honors to our apostle elders, which ruled great millstone well, and which taught us the truth, taught me the truth, taught Israel the truth. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel, Wa Abba Babal. Alright, so this is Isaiah 13, which you can see even Esau knows this is prophecies about Babylon the Great, aka America. You had ancient Babylon, and you have uh, Babylon the Great in modern times, which is America, which they're moving as the Babylonians in their customs here in America. Alright, so in the book of Judith, it tells you that Nebuchadnezzar, identified as king of the Assyrians, ruling in Nineveh, which Nineveh was the capital of Babylon, the Assyrian kingdom, commissions his general Holofernes to conquer the known world and force all nations to worship him as a god. See, and that's what's happening right now with Nero 47, all right, the king of Babylon, pertaining to Babylon the Great, all right. So this is what's happening now. It says, the decree Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, commanded Holofernes to destroy all local gods and shrines in the coastal and western regions so that all nations would worship only him, Nebuchadnezzar, and pray to him as a god. See, until he came across the Israelites that Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, had favored, which you even had an Ammonite, a Japanese, a so-called Japanese in that time, right? They were under their biblical name, which he was a Ammonite, and he told Nebuchadnezzar and the Holofernes about him. They wanted to kill him, right? But they gave him to the Israelites, thinking that the Israelites would kill him because he was a heathen, an Ammonite. But instead, the Israelites brought him in because he understood that there was power with Israel, just like the heathen woman Rahab in the time of Jericho. She said, she confessed, we heard of what your God, Yahweh, which now we understand Yahweh Shai, right, has done for you, which he crushed the Egyptian king Pharaoh and its military, right? So he done this many times over for the Israelites, and this is what he's gonna do once again. All right, this is what's gonna happen again. All right, so I just wanted to pull up the death of Holofernes. It says, while Holofernes was besieging the city of Bethulia, Judith entered his camp, which was an Israelite woman going back to the tribe of Judah, entered his camp, the pretense of offering information because they couldn't figure out a way around the mountains to get to the Israelites, because even though he had a big army, the Israelites were in a mountainous country, so they were able to cut off certain passages, like the movie 300. All right, but what they did was they cut off the water because they were able to build a something like a dam to stop the flow of the water to the city, and this is what caused the men at that time to panic and think about surrendering in a time period. And Judith heard this, and she says, uh, they're gonna abuse us pretty much. And she was a righteous Israelite woman, a widow, right, of one husband, and she prayed to the Lord, and the Lord gave her this idea. Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai put it in her spirit to bring death upon the highest ranking general and Nebuchadnezzar, the greatest king of heathen, right? He's the head of gold. He's the greatest of the heathen, and his greatest general was head was cut off by a woman of the tribe of Judah. All right. It says, Judith entered his camp under the pretense of offering information. Struck by her beauty and wisdom, He invited her to a lavish banquet where he got drunk. And it said he drank more than he ever had in his entire life that night because he was seduced by her beauty. It says during the meal, Holofernes drank far more wine than he ever had in his life. And that's what the scriptures say. By the time he was alone with Judith in his tent, he was dead drunk and passed out on his head. On his bed. The execution, Judith, the Israelite woman, prayed for strength, took the general's own sword from his bedpost, and struck his neck twice, decapitating him. See? And then she went and gave it to the Israelites, and they slaughtered them because their whole confidence was taken. All right? So, I think about this now, as they're moving in the spirit of Rome and in the spirit of Babylon, all right? These Edomites, because they're trying to keep us in Egypt, a spirit of Egypt here in America, subject to payment, right? They're fighting against the Lord because the Lord's right now He's wanting to let us go. All right, because we're repenting, and He's the one that caused the repentance. We didn't choose to repent. All right, we were called to repentance. So that means it's Him doing this. All right. It says in Lamentations 4 verse 1, how is the gold become dim? Why are the Israelites in all these false religions and these heathen customs? How is the most fine gold, which the Israelites are the best, were the number one race, changed into being under the barrel, under Esau? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is a base man. All right? They're the bottom of the barrel. So how did we get under these devils when we're the best? It's because we sinned, all right? And Yahweh sent us amongst the heathen, all right, because of our iniquity. But through His Son, Yahweh Shai, we're being called back, all right, to the kingdom, which we are the kingdom, Jerusalem, which we will be New Jerusalem when we have our new bodies in the new covenant. All right, and the world will be under new management, like Yahweh Shai says. When He comes, He makes all things new. He's going to renew. So we're not going to be at the bottom forever. And that's what you see manifesting in the earth is we're actually going to be given the earth. The earth is going to fight for us. All these earthquakes and eruptions and signs in the heaven and signs in the earth, these are signs that were prophesied long ago, like thousands of years ago, all right, by multiple men in different timelines, different ages, where this truth is now manifesting in our time, okay? It says, the stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street, which Jake can't find a job, Jake can't, buy a home, Jake, pretty much we're like lost sheep in the world, and the heathen devour us. The precious sons of Zion, the Israelites, comparable to fine gold, how are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, which once we were immortal, now we're mortal. The work of the hands of the potter, Yahweh is doing this. Romans 9 through Yahweh Shai, right? It says, verse 11, It says, for Esau and Jacob being, it says, being not yet born. So this was the plan before everything played out, right? Before the earth was even made. It says, neither having done any good or evil. So even before Cain and Abel, that the purpose of our power, according to election, which Yahweh chooses who He has mercy upon, might stand, not of works, but of Him that calleth. And that's heavy, in itself there, because it hit me this morning because I woke up real early and it was dark and cold, and it was so quiet. I heard a ringing in my ear, and I said, "Dang, hey, I feel so alone right now, but thank you, how about Shimei Shai, that I always have Him, right? Yahweh, through His Son Yahweh Shai, we have access to the power to overcome all these things, whether it's an emotion, whether it's just the flow of life. The Lord is going to give us the overcome. We got the victory no matter what. No matter what. Because Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai has chosen us. He has called us. So blessed is our ear. Blessed is our eye. You see? And you got to remember to rejoice and give thanks to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai if you have the ear to hear and the eye to see. Because no matter what you look like, that means you're the Israelite. And the Israelites, they're going to receive mercy. These other nations, there is no mercy for them. All right? That's why they show us no mercy. All right? Because really, there's no mercy to be shown to them. All right? And this is why they build their idols possessed by demons. Them being possessed by demons, they build idols, or they'll worship the earth or the stars or the sun, because these heathen are really nothing. All right, they're nothing. The Lord said they were nothing. All right, 2nd Ezra 6 and also Isaiah 40. It says in verse 12 of Romans 9, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. Esau, that's why Esau was born first, was because the prophecy. He is going to serve the younger. Jacob came out after. All right. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. And that's why he had Esau not care about the birthright and sell it to Jacob. Because even though Jacob was the younger, came out second, the promise was going to go to him through Esau not caring about the promise and selling it for a bowl of beans and undercooked meat. All right, because he is the wicked, and the Lord rejected him just as He rejected Cain. All right, the original Edomite, because he's the one that lost the actual color of skin. And when Esau was born, the reincarnation of Cain, he was born without color in his skin. And this is why his father, all right, Isaac said, Aishawah, wasted away, because he looked like a premature, weak, like a dead baby. If you ever see babies that are born premature, they come out real red and small. And that's how he was. He's the weaker race, though he's the firstborn. All right, he produces the weaker stock. All right, why? Because the Lord loves Jacob and hates Esau. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with our power? Our power forbid. No, our power is righteous. Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, which He's talking to the Israelite men on earth through Israelite men, prophets, by the Holy Spirit, to bring them back into remembrance. All right? And that's what the other nations don't like, because that means they're going into slavery. because they are nothing and they owe everything. All right. It says, "For he said to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion." He had mercy on Moses and the Israelites, but he didn't have no compassion on the Egyptians and their military, or even the people. Remember all the plagues that he sent upon Egypt, and remember he's going to do that to this place also, which is 2nd Ezra 15 and 10. All right, he's going to plague this place as he did unto the ancient Egypt before, and he's already doing it by sending the prophets. All right, Moses and Aaron, they already came. Moses would be King Masha, and Aaron would be Elijah, which Elijah came first, as the prophet was promised to come in Malachi 4. All right, and then King Masha, and now we have the apostle elders that rule Great Millstone Well, which is teaching Israel the truth. Why? Because we're at the time of Yahushai's return. All right, and as they say, the end of the world, the end of an age, the end of a way of life. All right, right now everybody's living wicked, and a lot of people are gonna die in judgment. And out of the few, the Lord's gonna give power to the remnant of Israel by giving us a body that doesn't die. All right, with power and eternal life. Right, eternal wealth, everything is gonna be eternal for us. But the heathen, they will always die. So he's having compassion on the Israelites. It says, "So then it is not of him that willeth," right? You can't even search this out. Like the wicked shall not understand. All that money, all the ability to look into the stars and look into smaller things of life, and they still can't believe. They still can't figure it out because it's not given to them. Right? You got the 2/3 of the nation of Israel that reject the truth. You see, they can't receive it because it wasn't given to them. Nor of him that runneth, meaning you can't even earn your way to salvation, right? Like if you say, "Oh, I'm going to do this and that, and serve the Lord, and He's going to be pleased with me," you can't even do that unless the Lord put it in you to do it properly. You see, because you got look at the false religions going on in the world, right? You have these um, cosmikazes. You have a good movie to watch to understand these Edomites is like Swordfish. You got Edomites that are so patriotic to the great whore that they're willing to sacrifice themselves, their children. Right? Lindsey Graham said, "Your money don't matter next to war. War matters more than your money." That's what Lindsey Graham told the people of America just recently. All right. So the idols of the heathen are in vain. All right. Our God is real. We have a sure word of prophecy, which we have the scriptures, and you would do well if you took heed. It says, "So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of our power, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, through his prophets, that showeth mercy," which we teach you the truth about Yahushai. Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai, and unto you as Israelites, which condemns the world. Because you got to remember, everything runs off of programming. They program the people, right? They send you to school, which they re-educate you into the ways of the heathen, right? Like one of my children, their school topic was ancient Rome. They're not teaching them about the truth about ancient Jerusalem. They're teaching them about ancient Rome because this is modern day Rome. You see? So they even were teaching them about the false idols of the Greeks and the Romans. They're not teaching them about the true God, Yahweh, and his son Yahushai. And that's why the Lord has a problem with these heathen that are ruling the world. Because there is no knowledge of Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahushai, in this earth. And us, the prophets of the nation of Israel, which he raised up, what do they want to do to us? They want to murder us. They want to murder us and hide our bodies. All right? But there's a divine intervention for the elect, which even Nebuchadnezzar learned the hard way, that you can't fuck with the elect. All right? It says in verse 17, Romans 9, verse 17, for the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, what happened to Pharaoh? All right? A greater king than the king of Babylon. Shit, the other day, the king of Babylon said that he needed sedatives, antidepressants live on TV, and everybody just laughed. You see, he's just a man. These Edomites, these Egyptians, spiritual Egyptians, these spiritual Syrians, they're the reincarnation of the Romans and the Greeks. The Greeks and the Romans, they're high on their pride. You see, they don't think nobody could take them down, just like Pharaoh did in his time. It says, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. See, so this is going to happen so that the Lord's name will be declared throughout the whole earth. All right? So he gave us a sure word of prophecy of how it's going to happen to Babylon. All right? And really, the only way you could survive is if you're an Israelite and the Lord is with you. Otherwise than that, you're not going to make it. There's even 2/3 of the nation of Israel that ain't going to make it out of Babylon. All right? And they're going to be destroyed for their unfaithfulness. But it says in Isaiah 13, verse 1, the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see, lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, which we're in America, which is considered the greatest nation of the world. All right, and we are the greatest nation, the Israelite, that are in this land known as the greatest nation, and it was made great by the Israelite being here and being in slavery. It says, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles, unto the elite, right? Mayday, mayday. They're crying out, right? It says, Edom shall say, we are impoverished. And this is why I like to watch so much news and reporting from the politicians, and, you know, when they have these committee meetings. Because really, they cry out to the elite, you know, that, you know, certain things are going bad in their cities and in their counties. They're losing control. Now, they'll cover it with the weather. They'll cover it with, we don't know yet. We're going to investigate it. You know, all these different lies. But really, the Lord is already plaguing this place. All right, the earthquakes, the tornadoes, the famines. There's a city in America that's in. They said in July they're shutting off the water, not because there is no water, but because the government is shutting it down according to their contracts. So in a city in America in July, the hottest time of the summer, they're literally going to shut off all the water. They're not even going to have water to wash or to drink. Everything has to be brought in. You see, and they said it's in the thousands. This it's like a small city, you know. But what would it take for them to do that to a major city? It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. All right. It's according to prophecy. It says, "I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger." Which in this generation you have nuclear weapons of mass destruction that these nations hold, even them that rejoice in my highness, which the Lord has a remnant that he will always preserve. All right. It says, the noise the noise, and that remnant is always going to be Israelite. There is no salvation to the other nations. There is no mercy to the other nations. They show us no mercy. There is no mercy to these other nations. And they can't even alter it. Even if they were to show us mercy, like, try to give us food and water, they've done so much evil to us, it can't compare. All right, because we've been in captivity under these heathen for generations. All right, so they have to pay for what they've done to us for generations, and they're going to go into captivity under us for generations. All right, and they're going to be uh, put down and brought back. All right, to serve more slavery. They're going to die and they're going to come back born as a baby, or we may raise them from the dead to bring them back right back to slavery and tell them to get back to fucking work. Because we're going to be able to pay them back for what they did to us. That's what makes the Almighty God, Yahweh, and his son just, Yahweh Shai. All right? It says, the noise of the multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together, which the Lord's gathering them together to fulfill his will, to bring America, the whore, into perdition as it is prophesied for Babylon the Great, and also to gather the king of Babylon's military, which is the world's armed forces, in the valley of slaughter, the valley of Jehoshaphat. And he's doing that by the rumor of war, which really it's roughhousing right now, but it's going to get serious. It's going to get serious because Yahweh controls the hearts of men through Yahweh Shai. All right? Yahweh Shai is the King of Kings. He's controlling all these kings on the earth. They're doing his will. All right? And what's he doing? Getting them ready for destruction. He's preparing them for slaughter. You know? Just like a hunter would do a prey. You know, you could set a trap and bring them in, or you could just sit and like a lion would wait in the bush, right? Or an alligator under the water, and then when your prey is in the right position, that's when you surgically uh, uh, attack, right? So that's what's gonna happen in these last days. They're being precisely put by their heart where the Lord wants them. And see, they think it's their own will. But I heard Nero say, I don't know if this is my idea or, whose, because he has people telling him what to do. And somebody's telling them what to do, which is Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai. All right? And he's gathering these nations to destruction. Zephaniah 3. It says, Yahweh of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. So the Lord is doing it. He's causing these wars through the hearts of men, and it's all being done by his son, Yahweh Shai. It says in Isaiah 13:4 NLT, hear the noise of the mountains, which is the governments. Listen as the vast armies march, which they're going to war, world war. It is the noise of shouting of many nations, which they're all confederate. Yahweh of heaven's armies has called this army together, which he's going to destroy them. See, that's why he's called them all together. He's going to destroy them. I'll just show you Zephaniah 3. It says, verse 8, therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey, when he sends Yahweh Shai back to save his prophets. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. And he is jealous for the Israelites. All right. NLT. It says, therefore be patient, says Yahweh. Soon I will stand and accuse these evil nations, for I have decided to gather the kingdoms of the earth and pour out my fiercest anger and fury on them. All the earth will be devoured by the fire of my jealousy, which he put inside those nuclear missiles. He put in those chariots, which Yahweh Shai and the host of heaven ride, just as Yahweh sits upon a chariot, a throne, and it's fit for judgment. What comes out of it is the lightning, the light, and it could destroy or it could save. All right, and the Lord's gonna pour out His wrath upon these nations for what they did unto the Israelites. All right, and they just declared in the UN, the United Nations, slavery was the worst to ever happen to any race of people. And that happened to the Israelites here in America. All right, so they have to pay. Who's getting rich off of America and it having the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians in slavery? All these nations. All right, all these nations. You could look up the bonds for America, which it really runs off the bonds that it sells to these other nations. And you have the UN nations, but at the top you have Ammon and Moab, the Japanese and the Chinese, that hold the most bonds, that is investing the most money into our slavery, having the Edomites rule over us, which the Edomite really rules the world. All right, that's why the Chinese is wearing a suit instead of imperial robes, right? It says, I put number one seller of uranium to America. As of late 2025, early 2026, Russia remains a top supplier of enriched uranium, which the purpose of them buying uranium enriched in mass quantity is so that they could produce weapons. They could produce a nuclear warhead in 1 month. So why couldn't they do that at a higher level and produce 100,000 nuclear warheads, in a month? So this is what they do. See, everything's an act. Right? These are hypocrites. They're actors all over the world. All right, but they're confederate against the Israelite. Now Esau the Russian and Esau the American, they're gonna go to war. All right, because the Lord's gonna stir up that bad blood that He's had in them. All right, for each other. It says, "For then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of Yahweh to serve Him with one consent." Which in that verse there, verse 9, the word there for pure is tahar. Let's see. Ba- barar. Barar. All right. I want to see if it had an over here. It says to clarify, i.e., brighten, examine. So we have an increase in knowledge. All right, and it's coming through the apostle Tahar and the apostle Gabar and the apostle Ramlab and the apostle Rakah and the prophets, that follow the same uh, biblical pattern, which is the way Yahweh Shai. All right, Yahweh Shai is the way to life. That's John 14. But every man has to work out their own salvation. You got to walk this path alone, but you're not alone because you're with Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai is with you. He said, I'll never leave you alone. We have the Holy Spirit, the Comforter. It says in John 14:6, Yahweh Shai saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So we have apostles and elders and teachers that are supposed to teach us in the way, in the truth, and in the life of Yahweh Shai, not in anything else. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. So to access our power, Yahweh, we have to go by the way of Yahweh Shai, which in John 15, he said, you're clean by the word, right? It says, verse 3, now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me in the word, believing in Yahweh Shai, and I in you, and Yahweh will give us the Comforter. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine, no more can ye except ye abide in me. Which you got to abide in the word, in the understanding of the word. All right? It says, I am the true vine, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, which we abide in Yahweh Shai by the word of Yahweh through belief, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit, for without me ye can do nothing. So it's the Lord doing everything through the men, whether it's the left hand or the right hand. He either cuts them off or he gives them more. You see, and they produce fruit. All right. It says, if a man abide not in me, meaning he doesn't meditate on the word in pertaining to Yahweh Shai and believe and confess his faith, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, which these will be those 2/3 that are deceived and destroyed in the lake of fire, right? Because Esau is going to make it mandatory that you have to have an implantable microchip worldwide. Remember, they're controlling these other nations, America and the European Union, and who's empowering America? Russia, through the banking system. Why? Because they're able to buy and sell, and they're actually going to go into a nuclear war after they make that implantable microchip worldwide mandatory for buying and selling. All right. And it's all being put in place. It's all in place. And the Lord's doing it. The Lord is doing it. It says, if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me and my words, see the words which are the Holy Scriptures, the word of Yahweh speaks of Yahweh Shai, abide in you. And how does that happen? You're meditating on this word. Ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. So this is how we have spiritual power, because the Lord is going to put it in us to cry unto our power, Abba, Father, Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. But we can say it in the Hebrew also, because there's power in the Hebrew. All right? So we were taught how to pray even by Yahweh Shai. All right? Which it tells you in Romans 8, we weren't given a spirit of fear. All right? It says, here it is, verse 15, for ye have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear that we will be destroyed, but ye have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the sons of Yahweh through Yahweh Shai. And if sons, then heirs of power, and the joint heirs with the anointed Messiah Yahweh Shai. So Yahweh is our power, and the Hamashiach, the Messiah, the chosen one, is Yahweh Shai. And through him, the elect of the nation of Israel, and then through them, the rest of the Israelites. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. And that's what's going to happen. That's why all these things are happening. All right? The Lord is being precise in his movements and strategies and putting this all together like a movie producer and director, and as he would have all the people behind the scenes, like he has the angels, the Lord has the angels working to make everything work out perfectly, right? And the grand finale is going to be the nuclear destruction of the great whore, all right, and the salvation of the remnant of Zion by Yahweh sending Yahweh Shai back. It says in verse 5 of Isaiah 13, they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even Yahweh, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Talking about the nuclear missiles after they make the implantable microchip mandatory for buying and selling. That's the judgment of the great whore. It says, Howl ye, for the day of Yahweh is at hand, which we're at this time. All right, it's gonna happen in our generation. All right, and so when we use day, we can say we're in that day, because a day pertains with the Lord 1,000 years, but this place don't even have 1,000 years. You see, this place is literally crumbling right before our eyes. They're being gathered for the slaughter. Their fiat currency is being exposed and losing value. That's why you have a thing called hyperinflation, which I seen. There's Jake pumping gas, and while he's pumping it, literally the price changed on him. You know, right while he's pumping it, and that's what hyperinflation is, meaning quick changes. You might go get a loaf of bread, and it's up to $10, and by the time you get to the register, it could be $18, $20. That's hyperinflation, which this is already taking places. I'm sorry, taking place in America in different places, like the gas, right? They said there, and I believe it was in California. It was like a gas station in the middle of like a no man land. So it was the only gas station there, and they were charging $10 a gallon. And they were interviewing that was buying the gas, and the woman that was there was like an Edomite, and she said, "Hey, if they make it $20, what are we gonna do? We gotta pay for the gas." You see, so these Americans, they're clueless. All right, they don't know what the fuck's going on. Most of the world don't know what the fuck's going on. All right, but the elect and the elite know what's going on. All right, it says in verse 6, "How ye, for the day of Yahweh is at hand." We're in that day. "It shall come as as a destruction from the Almighty," which nuclear destruction is being prepared. The world is going into nuclear war. "Therefore shall all the hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt." This is why you got these missing scientists. All right, they're putting up all these different scientists that went missing or died, or they're unexplainable. They're calling it a phenomenon. Trump said, Nero 47 said it was a coincidence, which he used the word properly, meaning that these two things that are happening, we're at nuclear war, and these nuclear scientists missing, they go together, which they're in the bunkers. But that's how dumb these people are. These people are in gross darkness, and you think that America would just let these nuclear scientists be destroyed when they survive off of nuclear power. Those would be the most protected people. They'd put them in their bunker first. You see? But all these people are going to mount, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them, which the pangs of the prophets, the sorrows of the prophecies coming to pass. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Because there's going to be famine, there's going to be death, and there's going to be destruction, nuclear destruction. Behold, the day of Yahweh cometh, which he's going to send Yahweh Shai, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. The unfaithful Israelite is going to be in the lake of fire with the wicked. He's going to destroy the wicked and them that do wickedly. Malachi 4. But unto you Israelites that fear his name, fear his father's name, fear his name, all right, he's going to save you. That's why you have that fear of the Lord, because the Lord has given you that to prepare you to meet your maker. All right. It says, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it, for the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light, which the nuclear destruction is going to cause mushroom cloud, which is going to block out the sun. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish for their evil. I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible, which the Edomite is the proud, terrible person, the serpent that was in the Garden of Eden. And the world had to be flooded, right? Because of the corruption the serpent brought upon the earth through envy. And now he has to burn it because of this devil, the so called white race, which was the serpent in the beginning, in the garden, that caused the world to need to be flooded. Now he's caused the world to be corrupted to the point where the Lord has to burn it. And he's going to burn the kingdom of Edom, Esau, the wicked, the so called white race, which has corrupted the whole world. And and he has weaponized the whole world against Israel, the Israelites. It says in verse 12, I will make a man, the Israelite man, more precious than fine gold, because uh, investing in the Israelite man means life to the Israelites. All right? Whether it's you gave us bread or water, or whether it's a woman that submits as a wife. All right? The Lord is going to repay them that subject themselves to his men. What's he in Revelation 3? It says he advises you in the NLT to join yourself to a man of wisdom, a man of the Lord. All right. So the men of the Lord are going to be more precious than fine gold. And what the number one thing that people look for in survival situations is gold. I was watching that Three Kings last night with Ice Cube, George Clooney, and I can't remember the other one that was in there. Wahlberg, and they conquered the Iraqis, which they were in the time of Saddam Hussein, and they knew about a bunker full of gold. You see, and everybody wanted the gold. The Iraqis wanted the gold. The Americans wanted the gold, right? But really, the elect are more precious than fine gold. You see, because Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai favors the Israelite over gold. You see, it says, therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of Yahweh of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger, and it shall be as the chase roe, a terrible time, a very fearful time, and as a sheep that no man taketh up, which shall be no mercy, they shall every man turn to his own people and flee every one into his own land. They're going to abandon America and run back to their own country. Every one that is found in America shall be thrust through, because you're going to have war in the streets of America. And every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword, which you're going to have war, world war, and nuclear war. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled and their wives ravished. And that's what they're going to do to Babylon, to the Americans. They're going to go door to door, destroying the people. All right. It says they're going to be like madmen, sparing none. All right. Now there's going to be a remnant preserved, but there is even of the remnant that will die in this time of judgment. But that number of the elect that will be sacrificed is precious, and Yahweh Shai is coming right after that. That's pretty much what's going to trigger the return of Yahweh Shai, is when they're persecuting the prophets. Revelation 6, verse 9, it says, "And when he had opened the fifth seal," which Yahweh Shai is the one doing it, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, "I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Yahweh and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren should be killed, as they were should be fulfilled. So there's a set number, the Lord knows, and once it's met, then that's the end of Esau, which they're going to be allowed to destroy in the nuclear destruction 2/3 of the nation of Israel that are in America. 1/3 will be saved. And the ones that are dead, their works follow them, and they'll be raised first with Yahweh Shai. It says in verse 12, And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake from the nuclear destruction. And the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, nuclear destruction. And the stars of heaven fell unto them. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, the nuclear missiles, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind, which they're going to hit everywhere. Once again, the prophecy is 200 million is what's going to consume the flesh of this whore. And the heaven departed as a scroll, which it's a mushroom cloud, when it is rolled together. And if you ever seen a scroll and you look at the top when it's rolled together, if you look at the top, it literally looks like a mushroom cloud. All right. It says, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every freeman, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. This is why they have bunkers. Even Nero 47 is building a bunker under his ballroom, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. Hide us from Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Which every knee will bow. And he's going to cause it through nuclear weapons. This is why it says, and let's see, verse 13, it says in Isaiah 13, therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of Yahweh of hosts, which he sent in Yahweh Shai with the host of heaven, and in the day of his fierce anger, and it shall be as the chased roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall, which we got this part, let's jump down. We're down to verse 17. Let's get to the point. Verse 17, behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it, which they want to destroy Babylon with nuclear missiles. They don't care about the gold and silver because everything's going digital. It says, their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children, and Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of Chaldee's excellency, shall be as when our power overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, which I just showed you. Russia supplies the majority of America's enriched uranium. It says enriched uranium is primarily used as fuel for nuclear power reactors to generate electricity. See? So when you see this blackout, right, happening, it's gonna be caused by these other nations controlling the system, starting with the so-called white race. All right, and then they do this to cause these issues before, because really they're being controlled by Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai to control the hearts of kings. Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai is the one that does that. He's the one that gives power, and he's the one that takes power. It says, and in higher concentrations for nuclear weapons, see, naval propulsion reactors, see, so for weapons, all right, of mass destruction, they used enriched uranium. And I seen America do this. They'll put the weapon in the hand of a people years out, 20 years out, and then come back later and use those same weapons as a justification of why they gotta go in there and destroy these people. So Russia's gonna do the same. The Lord's gonna turn the Russians, the Medes, against America. All right. Once again, I showed you that Russia's the main supplier of enriched uranium to America, which is used for electricity and also nuclear power. It says, look, I will stir up the Medes against Babylon. They cannot be tempted by silver or bribed with gold. See, because you want to take everything digital. So it's going to backfire in your face. Let's see, I will stir up the Medes, stir up. The word there is Iwar. It says to rouse oneself, awake, awaken, incite. See? It says to stir up, rouse, incite, to be excited, be triumphant. See? To master. And what they're going to do is use nuclear weapons to master Babylon the Great. And it's going to be the same judgment as Sodom and Gomorrah. And Putin has talked about Sodom and Gomorrah being America. All right, spiritually America. America being spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah. All right. So it says Vladimir Putin and other Russian officials have frequently used biblical references, including comparing Western nations to Sodom and Gomorrah, to criticize Western liberal values. See? So it's in his heart to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. It says Russia currently maintains the largest total inventory of nuclear weapons in the world, slightly exceeding the United States in raw numbers. See? So it's set up for Russia to have that in their heart and then have the capability of destroying the great whore. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Wa abba